face daily challenges while working in SharePoint? Would you like to automate processes, save time, and work more efficiently without having to rely on power users? You can! Quizcom is your one-stop solution for all your SharePoint needs. With 10,000 plus clients and over 70 SharePoint and Office 365 products, we offer a solution for any SharePoint requirement. Let's take a glance at a few of our products. No-code, smart, and secured forms. User-friendly and highly customizable organization charts. Data aggregation across your SharePoint Online tenant and MS Graph API. SharePoint and Exchange Online calendar aggregation. One-click convert to PDF and print. When using a third-party app, have you ever wondered how secured your data is when it's processed on a vendor's cloud server? All Quizcom apps are SharePoint hosted apps, which means your data never leaves your tenant. Discover how Quizcom can solve your SharePoint frustrations. Go to www.quizcom.com today and try out any Quizcom product for free.
All right, sir. Thank you for your patience. Apologies for getting us started late. You are good to go.
Fantastic. No problem. Thanks so much, Jay. Appreciate it. Okay. Thanks, everybody, for jumping into this session today. I know you've got lots of other sessions to choose from, so hopefully going to make this time as valuable as possible for you. My name is Richard Calderon. I'm a modern workplace strategist with Pate Group, and the session that I'm going to cover today is Tame That Never-Ending To-Do List, specific with Microsoft To Do. So if you've never really tried Microsoft To Do, or if you've already used Microsoft To Do previously, perhaps we'll get a chance to show and talk about a few things today that you might take away from this session and try on your own. A little bit about me again. So I live in the Austin, Texas area. My Twitter handle is RC for my initials and then ATX for Austin, Texas. So easy enough. The specialties that I focus on are really across the Microsoft 365 set of services, but really my background is in SharePoint. I've been doing SharePoint since really about the 2003 timeframe, and then now everything all about Microsoft Teams, obviously. But then I'm also really passionate about personal productivity services and tools like To Do and OneDrive, et cetera, inside the Microsoft 365 platform. And then a few certifications, et cetera, ProSci Certified Change Practitioner and a Teams Administrator Associate as well. Would certainly welcome if you all are interested in connecting with me. That QR code, if you have your phone handy, you can pull it out and then scan that code to my LinkedIn profile. Please connect with me. And same thing with Twitter. If you'd be willing to follow me on Twitter, I'd appreciate that. We can connect there as well. Just describing a little bit about myself. So I am a brown-skinned male with short, dark hair. I'm wearing glasses and a collared black shirt for the session today. And again, I really just appreciate that you all joined. So if you have not already, please would certainly encourage you to consider supporting and making a donation to the Children First Fund in order to be able to support equity in the Chicago Public Schools. And then, of course, just to ensure that everybody is aware that these types of events would not be possible if it wasn't for all the support from all these fabulous sponsors here. So if you get a chance sometime in between sessions or even afterwards to go into any of our sponsors' channels inside of the Microsoft Teams, please go and visit with them there as well, because just like Quizcom and others, as Jay was showing in that video, all these sponsors have these great products and services that they offer. Okay, so what are we going to cover here today? So the goal for me for this type of session is really about three things primarily. Number one is just to gain a general understanding of what Microsoft To Do is, what the capabilities are, what the features are, and how you can use those for being able to manage your own personal tasks on a day-to-day basis. Learn a few simple tricks and methods that you might be able to do for organizing those tasks and ways that that can help you eventually just find more efficiencies and ultimately just to be more productive each day. And then certainly my hope is that you can take away and realize some of the benefits of using Microsoft To Do, and then maybe even pick up a handful of different task management techniques that you can use. So just addressing what the challenge that I think we all face is is, with everything going on these days and the amount of information and roles and responsibilities and tasks that we have, that can be a lot of pressure, and you can certainly seem stressed, and it weighs on your mind, and it makes it difficult for you to be able to focus on what you really need to be able to do, because you've got about half a dozen or more things inside your head that you're trying to keep track of. So you do ideally want to get those tasks out of your head. So what do you do today? What are some of your methods? Feel free to drop these into the chat window, by the way. Do you use just a notepad, or jot things down and scribble them on a piece of paper? Are you a sticky note type of person, and maybe you stick it up on your monitor? I know a lot of people that just use email as that kind of primary management tool. So you might even send yourself an email, and then you kind of flag it for follow-up, or maybe you type notes or something, but then you forgot about them later and so forth. So these are all problems that most of us probably can find familiar. So what am I recommending, and what does Microsoft propose from your own individual productivity solution? Certainly using a personal task management tool like Microsoft To Do for being able to help you just, again, get those tasks out of your head, but more importantly, get them into a tool, a utility that allows you to be able to free up that mental space so that you're not kind of keep track of it in your head the entire time. And then realize some of the benefits from that, to be able to be more focused on the task at hand, or maybe a conversation that you're having with someone, that you could be more attentive to that conversation and not be thinking about things that you want to try to not forget. And then ultimately, I can attest to this myself. It certainly does decrease my own stress level whenever I'm just getting those to-dos out of my head, and at least putting them somewhere else that's better suited than my brain for trying to remember and keep track of things as we go. So talking about kind of key task management endpoints inside of Microsoft 365. So today's Microsoft strategy around tasks, they have certainly elevated tasks up to be a first-class content type, if you will, much like we think about documents and people. Even email, for the most part, has for the longest time been kind of like their first-class type of information. Tasks have always been kind of thought of as secondary, but now they really are treated as this first-class content type. So in terms of managing your own tasks, again, what we're going to focus on today, that is what Microsoft To Do is designed for. And then in terms of shared tasks that are really meant for kind of a group of people, whether it's a team you're on or even an entire department, et cetera, that set of our tasks is really geared towards the use of Microsoft Planner. Recently, within this past year, those two sets of both my tasks and our tasks are now even possible to see combined into a single view inside of Microsoft Teams through what's called the Tasks app in Teams. Today, it's got a little bit of an identity crisis because it's called Tasks by Planner and To Do, but just know that Microsoft has said soon, whatever soon means to Microsoft, it will be shortened to just simply say Tasks. So if you haven't tried that, go into Teams and then go search for the Tasks by Planner and To Do app and install that into Teams as well. And then you'll have a single consolidated view of both your to-do tasks and your planner tasks. I do a whole other session on that one as well, by the way, but just kind of letting you know that's the direction in terms of endpoints for task management from Microsoft. So again, to do all your tasks in one place. Again, it's the ability to be able to really get intentional with what are the things that you want to try to track and do today. Because let's face it, I mean, we always have more things that we can actually get done in any given day. Not to mention that rarely do we ever have time really just to focus on doing things. We always have meetings, right? There's meetings. It just seems like every day you can't get away from having at least one or more meetings throughout the day. And meetings is not the time where you're actually productive and getting things done. It's for coordinating with others and discussing strategy, et cetera, et cetera. So when you have the time to get things done, To Do can help you with some of its capabilities, really get intentional and focused on what are you going to do today versus tomorrow or next week. Really focusing in again on what matters, being able to manage those tasks by being able to do all the things you would expect, set due dates, set reminders, set importance level, et cetera, et cetera. And if you wanted to, you really could even use To Do for being able to coordinate with others, because you could share custom task lists with others so that you could all be working off of a single set of tasks. Again, that's something that I feel is really better suited for Planner. But just know that if you were wanting to use that in To Do, you certainly could do that. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. In terms of where you can actually get to Microsoft To Do, so it's available across a number of different endpoints. At the very least, there is a desktop app for To Do that you can go to either the Microsoft Store or the Apple Mac Store on Windows or Macs, search for Microsoft To Do, and then download and install that app. You'd sign in this case. If you're trying to connect to your Microsoft 365 work service, then sign in with your work account. But just know, by the way, that's also available on the consumer side as a personal app. So if you have a Outlook.com or a Hotmail or an MSN.com email address and account, you can also sign into To Do using those accounts as well. It is also available on mobile devices, so iOS and Android, whether it's an iPhone or an iPad or an Android phone or a tablet, and then absolutely can get to it from the web browser as well too. Given that it's a cloud-based service, you would expect to be able to do that. So you can get to Do from any of these various endpoints. One just quick aside for any of you that are kind of on the administration side. So just a couple of things to think about in terms of enabling Microsoft To Do. Again, if this is something that is somewhat new to you or if you just haven't thought about it just yet, at the very least, all of your users who wish to use Microsoft To Do have to have an enabled license for Microsoft To Do. That is typically available across almost all of the Microsoft 365 or Office 365 plans. You'll have Microsoft To Do kind of bundled together with all of that. A little quick side note is that Microsoft again says soon that you won't actually need a To Do license for Microsoft To Do on the web. That's actually just going to be something that'll be enabled directly through the licensing for Exchange Online. And then the second thing that you would need to actually have as well, and this is the important one, is your mailbox actually does need to be hosted in Exchange Online. So it needs to be hosted in the cloud because, in fact, that is where the task data is stored. The task data is stored in your Exchange or Outlook inbox, if you will, where it's integrated along with your existing Outlook tasks. So if you've been a user of Outlook tasks before or in the past, then this, again, will be somewhat familiar to you because it's sort of like the successor to the base Outlook task is Microsoft To Do. But those two things from an administrative perspective, just to know, you need the license and you need your mailbox in the cloud. Okay, so let's spend some time actually looking at what we're talking about here again. So, for those of you that have not actually seen Microsoft To Do before, what I'm going to start is I'm going to start in the desktop application. So this is what the desktop application for Microsoft To Do looks like. It's pretty bare bones. It's minimal. For the most part, you've got, kind of similar to the way most apps are set up. You've got this left-hand side here, and then you've got a, big generous area in the window here to be able to see things that are going on. But in this pane, what you see here in this demo is I've got a series of both what are called smart lists, and that's these items up here up top. And then I've got a whole bunch of custom lists that I have created for myself to be able to keep track and organize things in a way that makes sense to me. And I'll talk to you a little bit about kind of how I do things. And then, again, everyone is going to do things in a way that makes sense to you. So feel free to kind of take any of these things and shape them in a way that makes sense for yourself here. But when you launch the To Do app to begin with, the very first thing that typically you're going to see is the screen that they call My Day. And why My Day is really important is, as I mentioned earlier, it's that opportunity for you to really, really focus in on what are the tasks that I want to just focus on today. And the goal should be, at least from my perspective, to really try to hone in on getting all of those things done today, if at all possible. Now, again, we know that things happen and interruptions occur and so on and so forth. So maybe you won't, in fact, get everything done that you expected or hoped to get done today. But that is the idea, is to try to focus in on what are the things that I can really just get done today and not worry about all of those other things that are still on my to-do list just yet. So just to begin with the basics at the very least. So down here at the very bottom of the screen where you've got this big text box, this is where you're entering in things to do today. So, you need to complete those reports or something like that. So you're basically just entering in text, hitting enter, and then now you've got tasks and I can do, another task and new task and so forth. So being able to get tasks into To Do is really trivial. So again, my thoughts on this are literally anytime I'm sitting at my desk and I'm either in a meeting or in fact trying to get some work done and something pops into your head, because that's almost always the case. It just something just sort of triggers and all of a sudden I remember something, I actually don't hesitate anymore. I just launch Microsoft To Do, pin it to your start menu or something, whatever it is that you can get to the To Do app quickly, launch it up, and then just key it in, hit enter, and then kind of forget about it at that point. Just let To Do its job, which is it helped you keep track of something that you know you need to get done. Okay. So getting a task into To Do, super simple. Now, once you've got a task into To Do, now you want to go back and actually do a little bit more specific follow-up on it. So clicking on any of these tasks in the To Do app is going to open this pane on the right-hand side, which is going to give you a whole lot more detail about the task in this case. So for example, number one is you have this notion of being able to mark a task as important. So you notice the little star right here. So if I really want to give a little more emphasis to this task, I can flag it by clicking on the little star, which is going to indicate that this is considered an important task versus other tasks that maybe aren't as important. And again, I'll show you in a second here where that kind of all comes together, but you can flag a task as important. You can do what are called steps in To Do, which is really the notion of a subtask here. So if you have, in order to complete those reports, I've got to, research whatever that information is. I've got to, follow up with Steve or somebody, and I've got to do some other things before I can actually get that report complete. So just think of these as like the subtasks. That's what they refer to as steps. You can add a whole series of steps into a task. Notice right here it says added to my day, and I'll show you that here with some other tasks in a moment. But basically, this task is in my day smart list, and that's what that's indicating here. You can definitely do a reminder. So if I wanted to get reminded later today or tomorrow or next week, or if I wanted to pick a specific date and time, again, super easy to say that I need to get those reports done by some time. So in this case, I'm just going to say later today. You can also add a due date. So the due date is when you want to ensure that it has to be done by that day, obviously. So it has to be done by, next week, or maybe I'm going to pick a date. It has to be done by Monday of next week, but remind me about it today at 4 so that I've got a little bit of runway over the weekend to get it done. You can also set a recurrence on tasks. So if it's a repeated task, like I've got to, enter my weekly timesheet or things like that, you can set them to be daily, weekly, all the way to monthly and yearly, and then even custom repeated recurrence. You can absolutely add files and be able to upload and attach a file to a task in this case, so that you have the ability to refer to files and documents and et cetera. And then you can also add notes. So, add additional notes, et cetera, to a task so that you have some additional information for the task itself, okay? So being able to add this additional metadata to tasks is really useful. And again, so as you just click through any of these various tasks, you'll get that whole set of information again that you can update for each of them, okay? So being able to create tasks, get tasks in, and then add the important information to it, set the management of it, reminders, due dates, et cetera, super, super easy to do in the context of To Do. Now, the next thing I'd like to just talk through briefly here again is, I mentioned my day. This is where you're trying to really get focused on the things that matter. So if I were to, I'm going to close this panel and just again, imagine I just opened up To Do. There's a kind of an intelligent capability built into Microsoft's cloud that makes suggestions to you about things that you might want to try to get done today based off of previous work that you've entered into To Do. And the way that you get to that is right up here in the top right-hand corner, there's a little light bulb icon. When you click on this light bulb icon, again, it pops up in the right-hand pane, and this is the suggestions panel. The suggestions panel is taking into account a number of different variables to make recommendations to you as to what you might want to add to my day in this case. So this one, the ones that show up today are just kind of obvious. These are ones that you have marked as the due date is today. So if the due date is today, those might be obvious ones to go ahead and add to your My Day list. And so in order to do that, it's as simple as just hitting a little plus sign right here. So I'm going to say I want to add this one, and I want to add this one, and this one here I want to look at a little bit, and maybe I want to change the due date on this one because it's not really due today now. It's changed, so I'm going to pick a different day for this to be due, and I'm going to make it Monday or something. Okay, so now I've made some adjustments. The other ones it's suggesting are things like these are overdue, as you can tell. So this was due on Monday of this week, and this was way overdue at this point. So I have an opportunity to get caught up by simply adding some of these. Or again, maybe some of these I'm taking the due dates out because this one got dropped in priority, or this one, again, I can go ahead and move this out to a future date because things change. So the ability to make these quick edits and so forth just right here in line, really easy to do, again, in the suggested items pane. But again, the whole intent behind this is to say, okay, now I've got 6 things on my list to do today. You know what? That's actually probably pretty achievable. It's something that just knowing when I look at my Outlook calendar and I see all my meetings that I've got going on, and I'm trying to work an 8 or 9 hour day or whatever, these are probably a reasonable number of tasks. So again, I've got all of these others still in my list, and I'll show you kind of where they all fall here, but I've got a bunch in my list to do, but I'm not going to worry about putting them in my day at the moment. I'm just going to leave them there. I'm going to focus really only on getting these done. And so in this view here, again, I've got these 6 tasks. I can do things again here very simply, like I'm going to mark that as important. And by the way, when I did that, you notice it shot up to the top of the list. That's a configurable setting, by the way, if you want to do that. But in some cases, that makes that really handy, that anything that I've marked important in this case now is going to kind of shoot up to the top. I'll uncheck those. And so complete those reports, for example, you see if I go ahead and star that there, it shoots it up to the top of the list. So it's just something that helps me when I come in. I kind of move my eyes from top to bottom, and I'm going to try to tackle these items one at a time as I go. So that's kind of the value of my day, is being able to really focus in on those tasks. And again, being able to get those intelligent recommendations from that suggested panels list. I want to pivot briefly here again to these other smart lists. So the second one down the list here is the one called important. That's probably fairly obvious to you. So any one of the ones that I have throughout any of my tasks lists, even the custom lists that I've created, any of the ones that I have marked with a star and I've marked them as important are going to show up in this list. So it's a really easy way for me in a single click to be able to get to all the ones that I have marked as important, whether or not I've added them to my day or not. Now, if I want to add one of them to my day, maybe I come down here and I say, okay, this keynote demo planning I do need to add to my day. You could just right click on it, and amongst other things here that you can affect, being able to, change its due date and so on and so forth. Notice the top one here is add to my day, so I can go ahead and select that. Now it's going to show as in my day, and so if I go back to my day, then sure enough, there it is, and it's even at the top of the list at this point, okay? So the important list is one of the smart lists. Planned is another smart list that is really entirely driven off of a due date. So as long as you have gone into a task and assigned a due date to it, it's going to show up in this planned list here, okay? Any task where you've not actually assigned a due date is not going to show in this list. So again, it's a really quick way to be able to get to all the tasks that you have set a due date for, and then be able to get this somewhat grouped, organized view. I can see ones that maybe are a little bit planned overdue, and then the ones that are due today, and then ones that are due some point in the future. The next 2 lists are actually really super intuitive. They're actually somewhat recently added by Microsoft, like recently within the past year, for that matter. They added an all smart list, which is really, it's just a full rundown of every single task that you have open at the moment. In some cases, that might be a little overwhelming to look at, but in other cases, it also might just be something to help kind of continually remind you of, okay, I've got a good number of things that I still need to try to get done at some point. But nonetheless, this is a single view to be able to see all these tasks in one place. The completed task list is also probably fairly obvious to you, is that as you're going through and you're checking off tasks, which I haven't done yet, by the way, but I'll show you that in a second. There's a very satisfying little ding that you hear whenever you check off a task in To Do. Those all show up here as well. So these are all completed tasks. And why I think this is valuable as well is, this just gives you a chance to be able to see how much you've accomplished here over time. I would even encourage you that if you ever have like those kind of one-on-one performance evaluation sessions and so forth with your manager, that you have your device available with you and you pull up To Do and pull open your completed task lists and just actually show them, this is how I keep track of, this is how I hold myself accountable. This is how I keep track of all the things going on. And oh, by the way, look at all of the things I have checked off my list over time, right? I just think it's yet another one of those things that would be great to be able to reinforce how productive and really how awesome you are to a manager. Assigned to you is actually a special smart list. This is another one of those real benefits of having this type of a tool that's integrated on the Microsoft 365 platform, because this particular smart list has a direct connection to Planner. So I mentioned earlier that those two kind of primary hero endpoints for my tasks or our tasks, the R tasks is the Planner application. This list actually pulls in anything from Planner where a task has been assigned to you. So whether you've assigned yourself or someone has assigned that task to you, it's going to show up here in this list. So I think that's a pretty handy thing to have, is the ability within a single click to also be able to see Planner tasks, shared plan tasks that have been assigned to you. And for that matter, this was really the only good option you had for being able to see that here or see that in an easy click view before the Tasks app in Teams came out. So now that the Tasks app in Teams is available, you still have this exact same view, the assigned to you. It's just even easier now, really, to be able to see kind of all your tasks, whether they're personal or group tasks. Flagged email is the last of the smart lists, and that is also maybe obvious as to what this is, but there's a direct integration between To Do and Outlook, so that when you flag any Outlook email, it is automatically going to show up here in this list. So that's just another way that, again, if that's just something you're accustomed to doing and it's part of your normal process and workflow, that I just want to flag emails as a way to remind myself that I need something to get something done, then it will automatically show up in this flagged email task list. And then the last one is not necessarily a smart list. It's actually just the general bucket list. It is the one that whenever you aren't organizing them or categorizing them in any way, a task is just going to show up automatically here in tasks. And then you can reorganize them into other lists. So I was mentioning that these are the smart lists, but then down here on the left-hand side at the bottom of the screen, you see I've got a whole set of custom lists that I have created, and I've just sort of modeled this after a way in which I do this for myself for my own day-to-day tracking of tasks. But I've got a list for customers. I've got a list for any ideas that I might think of that I just want to jot down. If I need to do any travel and there's some tasks and so forth I need to do to plan for travel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You notice I also have a whole series of lists that I've grouped under a group that I call Life. And that's just because that's what makes sense to me. So, just offering a suggestion, while you could keep track of your kind of life and day-to-day tasks away from work in a different system or a different tool of some sorts, I would highly encourage you to give it a try, just integrating them all together. And the reason why is because, again, so much more and more today, our work and our life just is really integrated together. There's times in the middle of the day when I might get a phone call from, one of my kids' daycares, and they are informing me about something that needs to get done. So I just don't think twice about it. I open up To Do, I go down to one of these lists under Life, and I'll drop in the task and then not really think about it until later when I come back and review them. So I integrate these all together. I do my work lists, my life lists. I've even got one for archived, which is just a simple way for me to say, if I no longer need that list, but I don't want to delete all that stuff, I might just move it over into this grouping. So the way that you create these lists is fairly straightforward. There's an option right at the bottom of the screen here that says New List. And when I create New List, it is my M365 Chicago list, and that's it. And now I've got this brand new list here. You could even put these little emojis next to them if that was something that you thought was useful and compelling to you, was to put a little emoji, which kind of shows that here in the list itself. And then now you've got a custom list that you can now drag around easily and rearrange. So maybe I'm going to drag it here to the very top of my work list items and kind of drop it over the top. There it goes. And so now it's integrated here into this list group, the one that I called work. And just to show you also that in addition to New List, you can also create a new group here the same way. So here's my group, and these are, presentations. And then now I've got a group that I can also drag around, put this up here near the top, and take this M365 Chicago list, drop it on top. And so now I've just had another way that I can organize and group these lists together, okay? So being able to create custom lists, also super easy, which now gives me a container to be able to now reorganize tasks. So again, I'm on the normal task lists, and maybe I want to take this another task and I want to drag it over to M365 Chicago, and this new task and drag it over to M365 Chicago, complete those reports. I'm going to drag that over here into, sales and marketing. And then the Project Falcon one, I'm going to drag that over here into customers. And so now I've just, again, very easy, just kind of moved things around, got them just with a simple drag and drop, and it's fairly organized for me now. Okay. So I'm going to take a pause and see if there's any questions we have here at the moment. It doesn't look like there's any questions yet, so I'm just going to keep going. If you do, feel free to drop them in the chat or raise your hand if you'd like as well. Okay, I'm going to pivot here briefly now to I mentioned that there's a number of different endpoints you can get to do. One is clearly that desktop app, either on Windows or Mac. The next one I want to show you here briefly is accessing it from the browser, because if you're like me, you find a lot of value actually in going to office.com to begin with, and then from here using this as a launching point to get to other services, whether it be Outlook on the web or OneDrive or To-Do or any of those others. Obviously, I want to show you a little bit here. So whether you knew this or not, you all have access to this landing page, the Office 365 homepage, from your work account. If you've never tried it before, just open up your browser, go into office.com. If it asks you to sign in, go ahead and sign in with your work account. But you'll see a page that looks something like this. It's customized specifically to you. So it shows you lots of great information, kind of recommended about different content around the company, and shows you this extremely long list of things with which you've worked on recently. But one of the things that they added recently to this Office 365 homepage is the ability to see what they've also, interestingly enough, they've called My Day. But you can open this little panel right here to the top right-hand side of the screen. And when you open up this little panel, you get two things that you can see really easily that are really handy to be able to see at a glance. Number one is your calendar from Outlook. So you can scroll through here and just get a sense of what's upcoming. I want to take a look, at it, kind of look at the upcoming weeks and so forth. So you can look at your calendar view. But the other thing you can also see is there's a tab up here for To Do. And so if you click on this, this is the kind of web-enabled view of looking at all of those tasks. So these should look familiar to you, because those are all those various lists that I've created. There's that M365 Chicago list, for that matter, right there. And then there's the one called My Day. So if I click on My Day, again, these should look familiar to you, because these are all those tasks that I added to My Day in this case, okay? So being able to come in here and then easily be able to just get a glance at various tasks inside of this panel, I think is really useful. So, but in addition to that, now I want to be able to see them all. Okay, let me what's the web-based view for To Do? You can do that a couple of different ways. You can either click on this icon here, or you can also click down here where it says Manage All Tasks. But initially, what it's going to do is just going to launch for you the To Do on the web experience. And this is what you get. So you don't get the really cool theme behind the scenes that you did on the desktop app. So if you remember, the desktop app has the ability to, let you put kind of custom colors and themes. And I probably neglected to mention that, actually, quite honestly. But you can, I'm not sure why this is not clicking here at the moment, but you can actually get those themes inside of the To Do desktop app. Let's see here. Do need that to run. So let me close this here and see if it's, there it goes. Just something kind of hung up there on me in the browser or in the application. But these are something that you can easily change, by the way. Hey, in the ... you can change themes and stuff here. You can do that for any of those lists. So just give you some visual background in this case. Okay, so back to the browser. It's basically the same exact experience, except you don't have the kind of the theme background in this case here. But you have the drag and drop capability. You can take tasks here and I can drag them around and rearrange them and so forth. I can create new lists. I can create new groups. So very, very much the same experience. When I click on any of these, I'm going to get that right-hand panel. It's going to give me the ability to add steps and reminders and today, et cetera, et cetera. There is one specific thing about the browser-based To Do that for some reason you just can't do in the other tools, is the ability to add a category. And so the categories here are actually taking the exact categories that you've created inside of Outlook. So if you are the type of person that uses categories in Outlook to either organize your email, or if you use them to flag or to categorize your events inside of your Outlook calendar, those categories are just going to flow through here in To Do, only on To Do on the web, by the way. But nonetheless, it's something that allows you to be able to add categories so that you then have another metadata attribute by which to be able to view and filter and so on and so forth. So categories is one of the specific things that you do here inside of Microsoft To Do. But anyway, this is the browser-based experience. So just know that while you're here, you have the ability to be able to get back and forth to this inside of the browser. And then I will show you, just because I think the integration point here is really slick. If I went into Outlook on the web, by the way, this is a specific Outlook on the web feature as well. It's not nearly as integrated when you're dealing with it in Outlook desktop. But if you're like me and you're a fan of Outlook on the web, you can come into Outlook and similarly open the My Day panel. So it's the exact same little icon here in Outlook on the web. And then when you're here, you'll get those two views, either the calendar view or the to-do view. And then what you can do here, which I think is just a really interesting thing, is, so I'm going through email, and let's say, okay, I've got this email from Lydia on the project update, and I want to be able to ensure that I get something done. So she's asking me, we need to schedule a meeting, or we need to have a review, and so on and so forth. So what I can do in Outlook on the web with this panel open right here is I can literally grab an email and drag it over to this panel and then just let it go. And now, as you see, I've created a brand new task in To Do just based on that email, and I just had to drag it over. Okay, really, really cool. And I could even do that to a custom list for that matter. So if it's a custom list like customers or my M365 Chicago list, I can do the same thing. Drag this email over here, drop it, and then now I've just added that as a task in To Do into that custom list. I can then take further action upon at this point. If I go back into the To Do on the web app and I go into customers, sure enough, those items just get added automatically here inside of To Do. Actually, let's go here. There it is. There's that one that I just added. Okay. Notice here, by the way, too, that it even puts inside of the task itself, it puts a link back to that message where the item was that I created the task for. And I can even click here where it says open in Outlook. It is going to default to opening it up in the web experience, but nonetheless, it's pretty seamless in that it allows you to be able to go and take a look at the email message in a single glance that you used to create the task. Okay. So really, really useful way of being able to just stay productive from the web-based experience for Outlook. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to probably by far one of my favorite experiences for doing To Do is the mobile experiences. So To Do has iOS and Android apps, again, as I mentioned, for either one, either a phone, iPhone or an iPad, or an Android tablet, or for a Android phone. And what I just wanted to show you is just kind of a little bit of what those experiences look like, because this is, again, by far my favorite way to actually be able to use Microsoft To Do. I probably do this more than I do the desktop app, and I'll show you the reasons why here in a minute. So you can certainly get to To Do. As a matter of fact, I've got it here on my iPhone. You can get to Do just straight from the app itself. But in the kind of the latest iOS updates, you can do these little widgets as well too. So I've got a widget for my day for To Do and a widget up here for tasks. Android phones have had these widget concepts for a while, obviously now. So, there's a widget for Android for my day, but you also could certainly just get the To Do app in this case as well too. Okay. So there's widgets or, just launching the app's ways of getting to things. But let's just say I go into my day here, for example, and I'll launch it over here. Over in the Android side too, just so you can see it. But okay, so I've got my day, and I use my phone, like I said, all the time, even when I'm just home officing, because I've pretty much got it with me. I usually kind of put it in my pocket, or take it with me if I'm walking around the house, or I'm going to go check the mail. And again, I don't want to ever forget something. That's really the whole point of all this. So if I think of something and I happen to be away from my desk and I've got my phone with me, what I'll do is I'll, pull my phone out. I will quickly launch To Do. And then, you certainly could just start, typing away and say, need to, and, you're trying to, use your thumbs to kind of fat finger some things and so forth. It's usually not super efficient, at least not for me. But one of my favorite things to do is just use that unique capability of your phone, which is the ability to talk at your phone. And I know a lot of people do this already, but what I'll do is I'll just activate this microphone icon here on the app, and then it allows me to do things like this. Get those reports done by the end of the day. I need them by 4 p.m. And then notice that it even put here, there's intelligence built into To Do that I said the words, I need them by 4 p.m., but it's suggesting to me to set a reminder at 4 p.m., which is really not helpful if it's due by 4 p.m. But nonetheless, it took the words that I said and it allowed me to be able to set this reminder. I hit enter. And then now, as you see, I had a fairly lengthy statement that I actually just spoke at my phone in this case. And it did the whole speech to text conversion thing and created a new task for it. And so that's one of my favorite ways to really just use To Do. And then the best part about it is, again, when it's in a mobile app experience, it is trivial to be able to come in here now and just check any of these off the list. So, that one's done, this one's done, that one's done, and, this one's done. This one I'm marking as completed. And it just, again, it's a super satisfying experience to be able to essentially just, have an app in your pocket that's allowing you to keep track of all these things at one time. I did want to just, for the sake of showing it to you, I wanted to show you, I thought it was interesting just to kind of see how well into all of this really is. And so if I were to put together, let's just take my day as the default example here. But if I were to take my day as the view here to be able to see all of this really synchronizing at one time in the cloud. Again, I've got an Android phone, an iPhone. This is the Windows 10 desktop app, and then I have my browser running here. So just for grants, I'm going to take something over here. So if I were to say I marked this as important, just watch this synchronize across all these different devices. So that pretty slick there. My iPhone is dragging a little bit on it right there, but there, it's as simple as that. Or maybe I come over to my iPhone and I mark the top item as complete. And then as you see, it just synchronizes across them all. And so again, this is one of the big values of having this running in the cloud. It's just that all of these tasks are out of your head. They're now stored up with tasks in your Exchange Online inbox, for that matter. And you've got them on your mobile devices, you've got them on your desktop, you've got them from a browser in case you're away from your primary device at any point. But you can have all those tasks really just something that follows you around to begin with. I neglected to mention one thing also that I want to mention before we kind of start wrapping it up here is this notion of what are called tags. So you may notice there are these little hashtags and there's kind of blue coloring to them in here. So tags inside of Microsoft To Do actually allows you to add some additional, think of it like additional metadata that then lets you be able to search for any task, regardless of where they are, based on that tag. So let me give you an example. Let's say I go in here to, sales and marketing for that matter, and I'm going to create a new task, and I am going to hashtag it with Project Falcon in this case. You can see that I've already done that here, ABC. Okay, so I've created that task here, and then maybe I go under learning, and I do another one, and I do Project Falcon here. So XYZ. So now I've got, Project Falcon tagged tasks across various lists in this case. So what it allows you to do is, number one, you could do the search capability for sure. So if you did search, and I just did a search for Project Falcon, notice that it's searching for and it's showing me anywhere where it says project in this case, but it's even showing me the ones that have Project Falcon. So that's one way you can do it. But my favorite way to do it is when I'm in a list that has the tag Project Falcon in it somewhere. So here's one that has Project Falcon. You can just click directly right here on that tag. And when you do so, you automatically get that search result. So you get a search result across tasks anywhere across To Do that are tagged with that hashtag in this case. And so then you could even add more. So, if you wanted to, you could add another. So here, this is a sales related item. And this is a project related item, obviously. So you're just adding more metadata through these tags. And then again, you can click on any of these. And then now I'm seeing all sales related tasks across different projects in this case, right? Northwind Traders and Project Falcon. So tagging is another great way to be able to help keep track and manage your different tasks across the service. Okay, see a question from Nikki. Do you use flagged email? I actually do. I do use flagged email because again, sometimes when I'm in Outlook, it's just the fast thing to do is just to go ahead and flag it. As I mentioned, it will show up here automatically in this list when you flag an email. And then when you do that, you still have the ability to organize it and move it into other lists if you'd like. So flagged email, again, just kind of showing that really tight integration with Outlook in that case is something that I'll use occasionally just because it's where I am and it's easy for me to be able to do it from that experience. Okay. All right, so let's just kind of tie this up here at this point. So if you're not a to-do user already and you feel maybe a little inspired, hopefully, and you're ready to get organized, this is something that I've done with this series before, and it's just a little challenge that I came up with. So if you're willing to take the to-do 14-day challenge and commit to trying and using to-do each day for up to 14 days, here's some suggestions that I might have for you in this case, okay? So take the first 3 days to just sort of get used to doing things. Anything at all. Obviously, you've got to get the app installed to begin with, whether it's on your phone or on your desktop. But anything you need to get done, they could be short-term tasks, like things that I know I can get done within 5 minutes, or they could be long-term goal tasks. Just go ahead and start dropping them in to do. And then try to get, at least 5 to 10 of those, and then add a few of those to your My Day, and then just start checking them off as you go. So with the intent of being able to focus in on the ones you can get done each of those days 1 through 3. Then for the remainder of the 14 days, start exploring the other features, look at creating some custom lists, add some due dates and some reminders and other types of things, steps and so forth. I mentioned the hashtags for being able to categorize and find them. And I feel like it's fun. I think using to-do is in fact fun. So, hopefully enjoy doing that if it's something that you're willing to give a try. So some closing thoughts on this session here. Number one, absolutely, again, try to take advantage of the To-Do mobile app. It is by far one of my favorite ways to be able to track tasks in To-Do because I've got that device with me everywhere and anywhere for the most part. Also, give yourself a little bit of grace. It does take time to develop a new habit. If you keep it up, eventually it may become something that's sort of a natural part of your workflow. It took me quite a long time to just start getting away from, I used to try to track things in OneNote as my primary way of doing things, but I would just forget inevitably to go back to wherever that page was or whatever the section was and so forth. And, so this app is just a whole lot more efficient way, in my opinion, for me to be able to keep track of things. Try to get into a habit of reviewing those tasks every day, add a few more, check off the ones that are done and so forth, but just get into that rhythm. And then let me know how you're doing. Please, again, follow me on or just mention me out on Twitter. And if you're going to do that challenge, then, maybe the hashtags for Microsoft To Do, as well as the To Do 14-day challenge. Certainly sincerely appreciate the time that you spent with me here today. And again, thank you so much to all the conference organizers and leaders. So would love for you to leave an evaluation to both help the conference as well as me improve on these sessions. So if you have your phone handy, I would encourage you to go ahead and just grab this QR code here. And for that matter, if you don't have your phone handy, let me grab the link to the form, and I'll just drop that in the chat window there. Nikki, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. The QR code is actually wrong, and that's our fault.
Yeah, and actually, this QR code I did update, by the way, Jay.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because Michael sent me a new one, and awesome. So I just pasted it here into this slide. So this should take you to the current events evaluation.
Thank you for being more on top of things than I am.
No worries, no worries. So again, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. Please feel free to connect with me. I'd love to be able to speak with any and all of you about anything that you're doing in terms of your organization's productivity or your own personal productivity. You also can send me an email at rcalderon@pategroup.com. Any questions? Anyone want to take themselves off of mute? Feel free. I'm also happy to demonstrate anything again, or show some of the ways in which I've used To Do to help myself have certain sanity of all the kinds of things trying to keep track of day to day, week to week. Any questions? Okay, thank you, Jay. All right, well, I sincerely appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the rest of the virtual event and have a great weekend. Thanks, everybody.